It's always a pleasure having your company right here on The Duke's Farm. My name is Dennis Duke Wanyala. Don't forget to subscribe in case you're new. If you're old, please share this video with your friends, comment, like, because we need that engagement to grow. Today we're going to handle something very interesting. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, what is the cost of starting up a farm, a goat's farm to be specific? And in this particular video, we're going to talk or look at how to start a 200 goat capacity farm, from where you're supposed to start until where you're supposed to end, some of the mistakes you should avoid, and some of the things that can help you avoid such mistakes. But before you go into the discussion, I kindly remind you to always support us at Sungura House. Now, this is a restaurant located along Bukoto Chisasi Road, and we deal majorly in rabbit meat, but we also have other meats including chicken, goat, we have pizzas, we have fish, and a lot other goodies. So please visit us and ensure that you actually support us. Now, without wasting time, let's go into the discussion today. Now, goat farming has become a very lucrative business, employing hundreds of people in the country. This is because of different government initiatives, private individual efforts, among many others. People are joining for different or various reasons, or people start up goat farms for different reasons. Some people start up a goat farm or goat farms because they want money out of their different farms. Some want the products that the goats produce, including milk, meat, among others. Some people, well, it's a hobby. They just want to raise goats and look at goats multiplying. But if you're looking at starting up a goat farm commercially, this is a video for you. Most especially if you want to start up a 200 goat farm. The first thing you need to look at, of course, when you are starting up a goat farm is land. Now, land is a very, very important aspect in goat farming because it helps you construct or put up structures, one, to house the goats, but also a place where you can actually plant the grasses or where you're going to graze your animals, for those of you who've chosen to go on free range type of system. Now, the amount of land somebody needs is actually dependent on the project. But because we are specific in this particular video, we're looking at 200 goats. Somebody needs or requires at least, at least 20 acres to be able to feed the animals on free range type of system. If someone decides to raise on zero grazing, they will need about 5 to 10 acres. But remember, the smaller the land, the more you invest in grasses. So let us take on the free range system because it's what most farmers are using. I'm assuming an acre of land goes for about 7 million each, and that's about 2,000 USD each acre. For those of you who are not in Uganda, the dollar rate keeps fluctuating between 3,500 to 3,900. So you can choose a number between there to actually multiply. So the monies that I'm talking about, you just divide that money, divide by the dollars, and you'll divide by the dollar rate, and then you'll get the amount in dollars for you to be able to actually understand us. So for about 20 acres, if each acre is 7 million, you'll need about 140 million as a total cost for the land. That's about 40,000 USD. Now, these properties could go up, these prices rather could go up or down depending on where you buy your land, your bargaining power, among other things. But someone would argue and say, that's a huge investment. Well, just to help you put everything into perspective, the land you're buying or buying land is part of the business. Remember, you could use this land as a real estate owner in the future. So you're literally investing in land that you're going to use to produce money at the end of the day. So this land, remember, land appreciates every other single day. Therefore, if you take, for example, after 10 years, you're like, yo, I'm tired of goat farming, you can actually sell that land and get your money back. Plus, remember, it has appreciated in value. So it's a better deal. But for those of you who do not have as much capital, we're looking at a situation where you have to get land on lease or rent land somewhere so that you're able to set up your goat farm. Now, I won't go into a little bit of much how in terms of lease land, because different people use different strategies to lease their lands out. But a few precautions or guidance when you're getting land on lease: ensure that you at least get about 10 years and above, because goat farming is not a get quick rich or get rich quick kind of scheme. No, it is a venture that you go into for some time before you actually start recouping back your investment. So now you've got the land. What is the next thing you need to do? You need to set up a fence. This is an incredible step because fencing ensures safety of your animals, pasture management, and preventing goats from escaping or being stolen. The cost of fencing depends on the type of fencing you want to use, how big the area is, and the terrain of the land. For example, we've chosen our 200 goats. You may choose to fence about half an acre, and this includes things like the goat structure, housing for workers, toilets, pasture store, among many other things. This is just a half an acre where you've set up these particular things. That's why it's very important to set them up in next to each other, so that you don't have to fence up a bigger space, because the bigger the space, the more you're going to spend fencing. Now, the cheapest way to fence is using live fencing, where you plant certain shrubs around the perimeter, and these shrubs could include K-apples, among others. Another option is using barbed wire. This could cost like at most 1 million, and this could cater for the poles and barbed wires to be used, some nails, and a few other things. The second and the most best option is using chain link. This could cost between 3 to 10 to 5 million, depending on how big you've chosen your fencing to be. Okay, so the chain link is good, very, very good. I highly recommend it because, well, I've used it before and it's done me justice. So now you're done with fencing. What is the next thing you need to do? The moment you get land, if you don't have a source of water available, create one. Okay, so we are going into that aspect as well. So have water on your farm. You could do this by drilling a borehole or a shallow well. I would go with the shallow well because it favors low-income earners. A shallow well could go on, and by the way, contact me in case you need one. A shallow well could go between 4 to 7 million, depending on your location and the depth of your water. Okay, so it is important that you have water because you're going to need it at any point, whether for people to drink, animals to drink, construction, and so forth and so on. So it's important you get water. Another important thing to do is a toilet. Jesus Christ, a lot of people overlook toilet. I've gone to farms, they've started up, but they don't have a toilet. So they have to go to the nearby bushes, you know. That's very unhealthy. You're not minding about the sanitation of the area. So it's very important to have places of convenience. A toilet could go between 500 to 3 million, depending on what type of toilet system you actually choose to use at your farm. Now, after putting up these things, the toilet and water, the next thing you need to do is shelter for your workers, shelter for your store, shelter for yourself. So you'll need a worker's house, a worker's structure. This can have about 3 bedrooms. For example, at my farm, I've used 3 bedrooms, one for the workers to sleep in, the next one for a store to act as a store where we keep literally everything. The third one is my room where I can go to the farm and actually sleep there if in case I have something to do the next morning and I don't have to drive every or early morning to go and actually work at the farm. So plus also you can be on the farm and you feel like, oh, I'm so tired, can I take a nap? Where do you take a nap? On the trees? Definitely not. So you'll need a house, but that is only when you can afford. If you cannot afford, just construct 1 room for the workers or 2 rooms with a store where you keep everything that you want to keep at the farm. This could cost you between 8 to around 15 million, depending on how big the house is. So do the calculations, know your budget, and you know what to go for. Now, after doing or finishing the construction, the next important beautiful thing to do is to plant your grasses in case you don't have enough grasses for your goats to go and graze, or you have a limited space. For example, somebody that is on free range kind of system, they can choose to not plant these grasses. But I usually caution that it is important that you plant some of these grasses because you need to supplement on the feeds that these animals go and pick in the bushes. They are not the value that you get. I mean, they could be having fiber but not protein. So you need to be very, very specific with the type of food you want your goats to actually graze on or eat. So it's important for you to actually plant some grasses or pastures around your farm. So this could cost you somewhere between 500,000 to about 2 million, depending on how big the land you have and what grasses you're buying. Some grasses are more expensive than others, and which grasses you've chosen to actually plant. So the choice is all yours, but we've budgeted that at about 2 million Uganda shillings. Now, another thing that I do not want to forget is the goat structure. Now, this is a very crucial stage, and the type of structure that one chooses also matters. For not a raised structure, the prices are a little bit lower. Let's assume, or let's price them at about 8 million for a goat structure of 200 goats. And when we look at the raised goat structure, we're looking at something between 12.5 to 13 million Uganda shillings to have such a structure. Now, the choice is all yours depending on your preference. But like usual, we advise raised goat structures because they have a lot or immense benefits. But in case you have no money to spend on a raised goat structure, why break the bank? Just go with what you have. You'll upgrade later once things start moving absolutely fine. Now, after you have finished planting of your grasses, you now need to look at stocking of your goats. We advise you stock during dry season. It is important that you stock during dry season because diseases are more rampant during wet season. That's why somebody can stock during wet season and actually lose all their animals. So it is quite important. Now, stocking these goats depends on which type of breed you want to raise at your farm, okay? And how long you want to achieve your 200 goat farm dream. For example, we usually advise 50 goats to start with if you need to grow faster towards your 200 goat farm. But Munange, sometimes it is also dependent on how much somebody actually has in their pocket. If somebody chose to do exotic breeds and they are choosing to buy about 50 goats, this would bring the amount that they need to about 25 million to buy 50 female goats, all exotic breed, each goat valued at about 500,000 Uganda shillings. And then they will also need one male that is, valued at about 2 to 3 million Uganda shillings. Now, that male is quite big and quite okay for you to start your farm. It is maybe 100% pure, or at least 98, something close there. But it should be very, very good to give you nice offerings. Remember that the quality of your farm is made up of that male, okay? So it's very important to choose your males correctly and rightly. In case somebody is choosing to take on the local breeds, they will need about 10 million to buy 50 goats. But also, somebody may choose to say, okay, I've got the local breeds, but I'm going to have a male exotic breed. So they party with maybe 3 million. So let's assume that's about 13 million Uganda shillings, okay? Required for somebody to stock local breeds of goat. For somebody to stock exotic breeds of goat, they will need about 28 to 30 million to stock about 50 goats at their particular farms. Now, these goats are not going to be taken care of themselves. They need a worker or workers to tend to them. And therefore, for about 200 goats, you need roughly about 2 workers. Now these are the same workers that are going to do the grazing, but also don't forget they are going to manage the farm in terms of security, in terms of growing the pastures and so forth, digging and so forth and so on. So you'll need 2. Now we've budgeted them at about 250,000 Uganda shillings each every single month. So you are going to part with about 500,000 Uganda shillings, and this money caters for their feeding, their medicines in case one of them falls sick, but also their salary as well. So 250 all incorporated there. Usually the salary is between 150 to around 200,000 shillings. These are just casual laborers you've picked from anywhere. They probably don't have as much expertise, so you're going to train them, so you can't be paying them way that much. And meanwhile, there is cheap labor in Uganda, so you now know how much you're going to part with every other single day when it comes, every other single month rather. So in case somebody chooses to actually do what we call silage, they'll have to part with some money ranging from 2 to about 5 million to buy silage and every other equipment that is required to process or cut this silage. Okay, so you're talking about 5 million in total, but also remember monthly service fee of maybe 100,000 shillings, because these machines do break down, they need repairs, they need a fixing here and there, so you'll need to cater that monthly. Now depending on what you want, you can go through everything and say, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing that, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing this, so that you come down here with a total figure of what you want to actually of what you want to do, or how much you can actually spend on this venture. But just to help somebody understand a little bit of what we've been talking about is we wanted somebody that wants to start 200 goats to know how much they might need depending on what is available on ground. For example, if somebody has readily available land, they might not need as much money for this because the cost of land has been reduced. So we talk about 25 million for the goats, we're talking about 10 or 15 million for the structure, that's about 40. So roughly if somebody has about 60 million, they can start up a goat farm. But don't forget, even with 30 million, for as long as you have land available, you can start your goat farm and then go on building on, buying this and the other, fixing this and the other as time goes on, as you learn on the job, as you expand. That's how that's the best way you can do it. Otherwise, not a lot of people are in position to actually have these huge amounts of money. But all I can tell you is, just as much as you've invested in goat farming, that's how much you will equally reap when it comes to times of harvesting or selling off your offsprings. Ensure that these workers are trained. Ensure that you have a veterinary officer on speed dial in case you have an emergency. Ensure that you plant grasses that are very, very fertile, rather that are very nutritious, so that your goats look healthy year-round, all year round. Ensure that you have a good silage system in case you choose to go that side. Ensure that you get good quality breeds. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very hard for you to get money back if you stocked bad breeds. Okay, so get breeds from reputable people that have done the business for quite some time. It is also important to take precaution. Don't take everything that I say to be the gospel truth. It is very important to also consult somebody else in the same business so that you can compare notes and find out where your feet is. My name is Dennis Duke Onyala. Until then, see you at Sungura. Ciao.